beautiful. Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort.
Movie critics, am I right? Who needs them? Wait. As you've no doubt already guessed, today I'll be talking about Bullet Train, the latest action comedy movie directed by David Leitch that features not only an entire rogues gallery of major stars giving some top tier performances, nor the continuation of Brad Pitt's foray into this genre since The Lost City, but enough neon-drenched fistfights and action set pieces it would make even the most dedicated cyberpunk fan bright pink with jealousy. So I thought, hey, why not talk about that one today? So let's break it down and see what makes this Shinkansen arrive exactly where and when it needs to. Kicking us off, the film stars Brad Pitt, obviously, starring as our reluctant protagonist Ladybug, the name having been given to him by his handler as she believes the creatures are meant to represent good luck, something which he himself claims is inaccurate on an almost biblical level. Brought onto the job as a stand-in for one of his colleagues who had recently fallen ill, Ladybug is given the task of collecting a briefcase aboard a bullet train bound from Tokyo to Kyoto. What starts as a simple snatch and grab very quickly begins to devolve into a wacky and zany action comedy as Ladybug soon finds the train is filled with other assassins from around the world. All of them are after the briefcase and they are more than happy to take each other out if it means getting what they want. Brad Pitt does an outstanding job in this film, being an absolute joy to watch, not just because of the talent he demonstrates in his physicality, but how he channels the psychology of his character as well. When we meet him, Ladybug is reluctantly getting back into the groove of things following a number of important breakthroughs with his therapist, and Pitt does a fantastic job conveying that he doesn't want to choose violence as the first answer to everything, both via constant verbal pleas against his opponents and never being the one to instigate a fight throughout the movie. In his attempt to find a peaceful solution to his problems, he often attempts to spread the messages his therapist taught him to the assassins out to kill him, albeit much less profoundly, often leaving them more in a state of confusion rather than enlightenment. Despite this, he persists in an almost comically naive way throughout the film that only helps to endear you to his character. When he does inevitably have to fight for his life, Ladybug is repeatedly forced to find anything within his close vicinity due to his adherence to using guns. This brings cabinet doors, bottled water, and even laptops into play with imaginative employment. The sound effects aren't as hard-hittingly visceral as they could be, but this smartly keeps the violence goofy and his fights visually distinct from the other assassins' more R-rated antics. And speaking of other assassins, the supporting cast absolutely makes this film come together. Most prominent in the promotion for the film, and for good reason, were Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry, who play the twins Tangerine and Lemon. Both of them boast sparkling British accents but bring their own unique flair, with Johnson breaking out of the mould of English gangster with a polished presentation and a refusal to get ruffled, which is in stark contrast to Henry, who's the wild card of the pair, bickering in front of hostages and resolutely tying every situation to the stories of Thomas the Tank Engine. A character trait that plays as unexpected fun at first, seems to outstay its welcome towards the middle, before circling back around to bizarre completion of an emotional character arc by the end, and in no small part because of Henry's absolute commitment to the bit. These two could have easily carried the film as antagonists by themselves with the amount of charisma they had, but the addition of so many others to the ensemble cast really gave it that additional edge. Bad Bunny's appearance as the Wolf was intense, action-packed, and the results more than set the tone for the film going forward. Joey King played the Prince, a calm and collected schoolgirl hiding a much darker secret, and Andrew Koji's Yuichi is forced into action when his son is thrown from the roof of a building, prompting him to go on a one-man mission for revenge. With a whole host of celebrity cameos that I won't spoil for you because half the fun is not even realising it was them at first. Depending on how marvelled out you feel lately, you'll either love them or you'll find them pretty redundant. With the movie being aimed just to entertain though, I think most of you will find them enjoyable. I know I certainly did. Yet despite its overall enjoyable nature, however, every review I've read about the film so far has called it fun but a brainless action movie. Yes, the film does have flaws, that much is true, but calling it brainless is doing the movie a disservice. Each of the characters have their own motivations, there's an overarching and interweaving plot tying everything together, there's plenty of character development for those looking for it, and an ending that would leave all but the most cynical somewhat satisfied. The film is an adaptation of Kotaro Isaka's 2010 novel Mariah Beetle, but you probably wouldn't know that due to the majority of Western actors in the film. I'm not saying that the ensemble cast wasn't great, but after having such major successes with films like Parasite, Everything Everywhere All at Once, or RRR, I thought we could at least have the decency to cast more people from the nation in which these films are set. Does this look like a nanao to you? Especially since the film stars both Karen Fukuhara and Masayori Oka, and the two of them are given hardly any dialogue and only appear for a one-off joke. Brad Pitt himself spends much of his screen time befuddled by Japanese culture. He's unable to use a smart toilet, he rolls his eyes at all the costumed mascots, he even spends time arguing that the public aren't as polite in Japan as he expected. At a later point in the film, Japanese covers of the Bee Gees' Staying Alive and Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero start playing. Now, it's not as good as the Shrek 2 version, but I'd be lying if the minute I heard that beat I didn't have a dumb smile on my face. If there is only one way to describe this film, it's pure action cinema disguised as a tourism brochure. But what the hell, man, it's working, when's my flight? Overall, Bullet Train was a fun, action-packed ride from start to finish, offering everything you need from an action comedy, and I wouldn't mind if we got more films like this in the future that don't take themselves so seriously. I can understand wanting depth and an engaging story, but even the most thought-provoking and moving masterpiece can still be beaten out by a bit of nonsense fun every now and then. It's why I always go back to watch Mad Max Fury Road. You just can't beat a guitar that's also a flamethrower, what can I say? The pacing fumbles a bit, and some of the characters end up shortchanged amid the constant barrage of spectacle, with Bad Bunny's the Wolf and Zazie Beetz the Hornet being the most egregious to me, but overall it's easily one of the most fun movies I've seen this summer. Leach stuffed this film to the brim with star power, colourful characters, inventive stunts, decent banter, and enough twists to make Shyamalan proud, making Bullet Train a satisfyingly eye-popping and heart-pounding wild ride that will only mildly stretch your suspension of disbelief, so get yourselves down to the cinema to watch it already.